I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads, and this is just a super quick intro. I am getting ready to go and get my hair cut. Very, very excited. And I have 2 books that I'm currently reading. I will tell you about those books when I come back. But I have to go. I have to go and get it done. I am back from the salon. So let's imagine I didn't get caught in the wind, because there's a lot of wind, as there always is whenever I go to the hairdresser. But it's not. She said the condition was excellent. So I didn't need to lose a lot of the length, but I wanted to get my layers popped back in. So I'm very, very happy with this. I also went to get a cake because it is my sister's birthday today. She's dead, so I celebrate. That sounds awful. This is the 13th birthday of hers I have celebrated without her. So I went to Amandine, which is this bougie, gorgeous patisserie, and I got a coconut and raspberry thing. It was delicious. I really liked it. My sister would have hated it. She would have hated it. But it's in her honor. It doesn't have to be the thing she would have. She was a chocolate girly. She was a cake girly. Never met anybody with such a sweet tooth. So it definitely felt like the right thing to do. The best way to sort of celebrate her birthday is to get some sort of sweet treat. So patisserie it was, and it was so nice. And I sat and I read a little bit of my book, but I also punched. I also got my final punch on my Visit 10 Cafe punch card. So I have finished this. I've gone to 10 independent cafes this year, so this means I can buy a book. This is my third completed punch card. So in theory, I can get 3 books, but I have not bought any books this year. Not to say I won't, but I'm saving them. So the books I'm currently reading 2 books. I've got such a bulky bookmark. It's gorgeous, but it's quite thick. The book, I worry about it. So I'm reading The City We Became by N.K. Jemison. I had a friend recommend this author to me, and I told her I bought this book, and she was like, no, I meant the 5th season. I'm like, well, I'm reading The City We Became. This is a strange book, very strange, and I think I need to read a little bit more of it before I can actually really tell you what it's about, because it's so bizarre. We're in New York, and there are these strange beings with tentacles. There's little, you can kind of maybe see it, little tentacles, and they're sort of possessing people. And then there are these people who each are named for one of the sections of or districts of New York. And what are they going to come together and fight off the tentacle guy? I don't know, but it's very strange, but it's very compelling. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm really happy to find out what is. The other book I'm only a teeny bit into is Monsters by Emerald Fennel. Yes, the Emerald Fennel who is directing Wuthering Heights. Honestly, I'm so over Wuthering Heights. I feel it's everywhere just now. I was, according to my mother, absolutely obsessed with Wuthering Heights when I was like 12 or 13. And she like I think 2 years ago, found my very dog-eared, falling apart copy of Wuthering Heights. And I hadn't even thought of that book since. And I'm not going to watch the film because I don't really want to. It's as simple as that. I liked the book when I read it a lot, but I don't really, it's It's not for me, it's for other people. They can enjoy it. I hope people do enjoy it. I've seen a lot of people that are really angry about it. I'm like, don't watch it. Just don't spend your money on something you don't think you're going to like. Save that money, buy yourself something nice. But Monsters is her book. And again, a strange one. It is about children who find a dead body on the beach and sort of relish in that. It's not a book for children. It says, when I marked it on Goodreads, it said, this is not a book for children. However, I'm like, are you sure? Because like the font is massive, massive font. I could read it. It's quite nice to have a book that I don't need to worry about getting my glasses for. I don't know where they are. So yeah, it's a strange book, but you know, I'm excited to read it. I have nothing else planned for the rest of the day, so I'm just going to sit and chill. I need to do some crochet. I might do some knitting. I'm going to just have a very relaxing day. It's what my sister would have wanted. And I will come back to you with some updates later. You may be able to tell from my face, my big red nose, my voice is less shrill right now, and I have a cup of lamb sip. I'm sick. I got sick. I'm still sick, but I wanted to get this video up and I wanted to talk about my books. So we're doing it. I finished both of my books on the same day and I was like, oh, I have so many thoughts and feelings. I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to film the next day because I had many thoughts and feelings. And then the next day I wake up really, really unwell. Like it's a cold, it's a dramatic cold or a sinus infection. Either way, whenever I get sick, it goes in my chest because my body is nothing if not dramatic. So I had to delay filming because I couldn't stop coughing, but here we are. And that's kind of good because I've had time to really simmer on these books. I remember that I need to actually tell you what both of my books are about, but first I want to fill you in on my week, what I've been up to. I went for a little read in a coffee shop, which is one of my favourite things to do. I went to Mount, which is in the city centre, and I got an espresso and I got a croissant. They do a vegan croissant, which is heated up and it's just so flaky and it's so delicious. I dream about it sometimes. I then had my day in the office, which is where I think I got my germs from, but it snowed. When I got off the bus, it started snowing and I got a little thing in my eye and I thought it was hailstones. And I was like, oh no, I've been hit in the eye with a hailstone. And then I waited for the pain. There was no pain because it was snow. And the snow just came down and it was so beautiful and I was so happy. I love the snow. Nobody in my office really cared about the snow. They were quite angry, but I was like, yay, I'm happy. I was freezing, absolutely frozen. But I love heavy snow, especially if I get to be indoors. I'm going to have a sip of lemon sip and then we'll get on to the books because that's why we're here. First up is The City We Became by N.K. Jemison. This was fascinating. It was one of those books that I did not want to put down. I really wanted to know what was going to happen next, but I did have to put it down sometimes because it was pretty dense and kind of like content heavy. So I did have to give myself some breaks just so that I could absorb what I had just read. This is set in an alternate version of like our world in New York City. And the city is under attack from a big bad who basically wants to take over the city. They want to plop their own city, which is not in a good place. They want to put their city on top of New York City and just be like, we're claiming it. It's ours now. They do not care about the millions. How many people live in New York City? I'm guessing a lot. They do not care about the people who already live there. The fact that it is already a city. They want to take it over and they want to make it theirs. The big bad is referred to as the woman in white because she always appears as a woman wearing white. White hair, white clothes, and she is a different woman every time. but she's always very much identifiable as being this woman in white. And the city, because it is under attack, it chooses human representatives for each borough. They need to find each other and work together in order to save the city. The book starts with two of these representatives, Manny, who represents Manhattan, and Brooklyn, who represents Brooklyn. They're the first two that meet. And Brooklyn, she knows what's going on. Manny, he doesn't even know who he is. But they go off together to find the rest of the gang. And it's kind of like a treasure hunt, but you're searching human representations of the boroughs. The woman in white has these really creepy white wormy tendrils that make people controllable. They do still have like their own personalities, but it amplifies the worst characteristics in them and kind of also makes them do her bidding, but they're not like puppets. They're just, if you're an awful person, you're a really, really awful person when you got these wee tendrils. I liked the quest element. I love a quest. Traipsing around the city, trying to find these people without knowing anything about them. All they knew was that they were in geographical regions, but other than that, they didn't know who they were looking for. They just kind of got a feeling when they were next to another borough. And I kind of really liked the whole we're looking but we're just going on vibes element. I also learned from this book that New York has 5 boroughs. I did not know that. Why would I know that? I don't know. But this will be useful to me one day in a quiz, I'm sure. I kind of got Power Rangers vibes from the boroughs in that they all had their own strengths, but they were stronger together and they were all very, very individual. And literally the only thing keeping them together was the fact that they were all together. They were New York. I really liked the characters who represented Brooklyn, the Bronx and Queens. They were my favourite. And honestly, I would have liked a little bit more of their storylines. I didn't really like the other boroughs. I really didn't like the borough who represented Staten Island, Aisling, but I think we were meant to not like her. She was meant to be awful, but she really was awful and she was cruel and I didn't like her. And I was like, I had a thought of something that could happen that ended up happening in the book, but I thought about this maybe like 100 pages earlier than when it happened. There were a lot of side characters in this book. At one point, the main characters split up, but when you've got 5 main characters already, that is quite a lot of different arcs that are going on at one time. And I found myself feeling a little fractured and like I was really getting into one storyline and then we would jump to somebody else. I'm like, oh, it's Manny. I don't care about him. I wanted to go back to Queens. I wanted to go back to the art gallery. I didn't want to be underground. The Woman in White also reminded me a little bit of The Faculty, which in my mind, The Faculty is a really popular film, but if it's not a really popular film, it should be. It's a glorious film with Josh Hartnett, Clea Duvall, and Elijah Wood. Usher's in. Is Usher in it? Maybe. And they're in a school and there's like these mind controlling elements happening, aliens and stuff. It's a really good film. I kind of want to watch it now, but it reminded me of that. This was really interesting. This was really exciting. I felt it was like 350 pages of like build up and I was in. I was so in, but then the end was really quick. It was really quickly resolved and I was like, is that it? But I had a good time. The writing style was gorgeous. It was very Moorish. It was the kind of book that you just want to keep reading, even though at some point like my eyes were just like going because I was so tired. But I wanted to read it. I did feel there was an assumed level of knowledge of New York City, of which I have none outside of Friends, watching Friends. I know about Central Park, and I've seen Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, but I know TV shows that are set in New York, but they're not about New York. They're mainly about wearing gorgeous clothes, actually. I'm thinking of Sex and the City. So I did have to do some Googling, but that could just be my lack of knowledge. I think if you are a fan of New York, if you have the warm and fuzzies towards New York City, you will probably enjoy this book a bit more than I did, but I did still really have a good time, and I will, I would read book 2. I wouldn't rush out and buy it, but should I come across it in a library, it's coming home with me. Now it's time to talk about monsters. First of all, the US cover of this book is stunning. It's so pretty. It's got this like cake that has been like punched or something. It's got a cake that's a little bit crumbling, but it's beautiful. And then this is the UK cover. Like, it's fine. There's worse covers. But it's not a gorgeous pink fluffy cake. So, kind of salty about that. I'm actually not grateful I got sick. Not grateful I am sick. But I'm grateful that I have taken the time between finishing this book and writing my notes about it and then telling you about it. Because if I were to talk to you about this book immediately after finishing it, all I would tell you is, ooh, I hated it. Very grown-up response. But now that I've had some time to think, I do still hate it, but I have some positives about it. Wait, I have to tell you about what the book was about first. And then I can tell you why I hated it. So, I don't know what time this book takes place during. It could kind of be anywhere between like the 1950s and 1996, probably. I'm putting it as pre-Spice Girls. This focuses on a very lonely and unloved, unnamed female main character. She is 12 when the book begins. She does have her 13th birthday during the span of the book though. She is spending the summer staying with her auntie and uncle who own a seaside hotel. And murders start happening in this quaint seaside town. Our main character is like, yes, love it. She has an interest in like grisly murders. We love a hobby. And she favours the macabre. She makes friends with an age-appropriate boy. He is an age-appropriate boy called Miles. He and his mother are staying at the hotel. And together they share an obsession for the darker things in life. We're talking murder. So let's go on to the good points before I tell you why I hated it. I love the setting. I love the cozy seaside setting, and it was set in we don't know when it was set, but it felt like a very sort of innocent time period. You've got one police officer who's bumbling. You've got people leave their doors open at night. It felt very charming, very small town vibes. The main character, she was unloved, and I know that sounds really horrible to say it, but with everything I read in the book, I don't feel anybody really cared about her. And I felt a fondness towards her. She wasn't a bad kid. She was an orphan. Her parents died in a very violent accident, and she was raised by her grandmother, who wanted a break, which is why she went off to stay with her auntie and uncle. Her grandmother and her auntie and uncle have no strong feelings towards her. Absolutely no warmth or tenderness was displayed. She had no friends at school. She was a bit of an odd duck. And, when you're a kid, that can really be what keeps you apart from the others. But she was really lonely, and she was kind of that sort of character that's like, I'm fine, I don't need anybody. But you could tell she wanted to be part of a group. And it was just so heartbreaking. Every adult in her life was awful. They were awful to her. They were cruel. There were a few people in the town that were like quite nice, or the bar is in the ground really. They were not awful to her, but they weren't overly nice either. She wasn't a bad kid. She wasn't evil. She wasn't needlessly cruel. She just had an interest in things that were a bit dark, and she was weird. And as a former weird kid, I see it. Although I was very much loved. That's not a boast. But this character, she is 12. Her parents died in such a way that, of course, she had an interest in things that were darker. Maybe that helped her make sense of her parents' death. I don't know. Did anyone think of that? No, they probably didn't. All I wanted was somebody to show her kindness and care about her. She is a little kid. She is alone in the world. She needs love. And I really liked that she felt like she got love from Miles, that she felt like Miles cared about her. I don't feel that that's what was happening in the book, but who am I to tell her how she was feeling? I felt like Miles was controlling. He was vindictive. He was not loving. He was a terrifying boy. I know he's not real, but he would grow up to be a horrible man. You just know it. I liked the mystery. I liked it. I did solve it very early on because I feel that it was quite obvious. I felt it was obvious. I actually found myself wondering who this book was for. Because it looks like a children's book. And I know I showed it earlier, but I'll show you it with the author bit so I don't spoil anything. Look how big the font is. That is a generous font. I felt like the way that every adult character was described definitely felt in keeping with a children's book. You know, like all of the adults are stupid, which as adults we generally are stupid a lot of the time. So that kind of feels accurate. It felt like a kind of classic children's book trope. The writing was very accessible language, very short sentences, short chapters. And in content, this is not for children. No, not at all. I have stepkids who are 15 and I would feel uncomfortable with them reading some of the scenes in this book because the main character was being abused. She was being abused by her uncle and it was just glossed over. And first of all, I don't like abuse as a topic in a book. Not something I ever want to read. But the adults in this book knew what was happening to this child and did nothing. They did nothing. They just went, oh, that's him. No. We do something about this. You don't let that happen. Miles was also emotionally manipulative and I hated him, and I feel like that didn't feel like something that would... Sometimes you do get characters like that in a book for children, but he took it so far that it felt very adult. There was also an extremely unnecessary and quite horrific to read. It was very short, so it was over very quickly, but I felt uncomfortable reading it. Instance with Miles and the main character that I will describe as intimate. Not good. And, you know, he is caught by an adult instead of the adult. Again, offering any tenderness, they don't react in any way that makes sense. According to Goodreads, this book is a young adult book. I don't think it is. I felt like the book was just trying to shock without really giving any sort of substance, to throw in these horrible moments and then just act as if they're nothing. I gave this book 1 star and I feel like that's incredibly kind. I hated it. And yeah, I only kind of read it. The book sounded really good, but it's really bad. I don't like it. So I have finished 2 books, one more successful than the other. Please let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and if you've had a nice week. I am hopeful my next read will be more than a 1 star. The bar is in the ground. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to be feeling better because I hate being sick. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!